in this esteemed program that marks the launch of India Energy Security Scenario 2047 version and India Climate and Energy Dashboard. Friends, greetings to all you. And as we all are here together for this particular cause, because when we talk about the climate and when we talk about the energy, such subjects, it's very much required that we all together hold hands, because you all will agree with me that there is no one stronger than all of us together. My dear friends, as we are speaking about this launch function today, let me please share a little brief about it. Talking about IESS 2047, India Energy Security Scenario 2047, it is a scenario-based accounting tool developed by NITI Aayog to model supply and demand sectors for India leading up to the year 2047. The first version of the tool was launched in February 2014, and second version was in August 2015. The tool has been updated in collaboration with technical partners with the latest developments in ICED. Let me please Ayog's flagship initiative developed in association with Vasudha Foundation. It offers insightful analysis on India's energy, climate, and relevant economy-related aspects to enable robust decision-making towards India's clean energy transition. So, my dear friends, as we are here for this launch, I would like to share with you that firstly, we'll be initiating this formal program with the panel discussion on role of analytical tools and data for energy transition. That will be followed by the launch program. So firstly, please join me in inviting on the stage the panel members, the esteemed panelists. May I please request Shri Amarnath, Additional Secretary, Department of Administrative Reform and Public Grievances, Government of India, to please join us on the dais. Please have a huge round of applause for his welcome. I would like to request Shri Pankaj Sharma, Director, Petroleum Planning Analysis Cell, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, to please come on the dais. I would like to request Shri Piyush Kumar, Director, Ministry of Coal, to please join us on the stage with your round of applause, my dear friends. I would also request Dr. Sunit Singh, Head of Department, Energy Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay, to please join us on the dais. Also, join me in welcoming on the dais Shri Srinivas Krishnaswamy, CEO, Vasudha Foundation. Let's have a round of applause for his welcome as well. As the esteemed panelists are here, now please join me in welcoming on the dais the moderator of this session, Consultant Deputy to NITI Aayog, Dr. Ritu Mathur. Please put your hands together for her. So now this panel discussion is on the horizons. I would say the role of analytical tools and data for energy transition. And I would like to hand over the mic to the moderator, Dr. Ritu Kumar. Please put your hands together for her.
So good morning, everybody. I think we are all gathered here today for this big launch that we are looking forward to. But we would begin with a panel discussion this morning. And I would like to welcome all the panelists who have joined us today. I would not go into long introductions for everybody, but I would like to, in this panel discussion, throw a few questions to the panelists to engage us in talking about how data and modeling scenarios, etc., can be useful in going ahead in terms of planning, policy making, and decision making. So keeping that in mind, and I think we would all agree that what gets measured also gets addressed. So I think it's extremely important that we have good data, good tools, good models, which we can use for decision making. So for that, I think the first panelist I would like to call on is Shri Amarnath ji. And the question that I would like to pose to you, sir, is how do you think that quantitative and qualitative tools and assessments can be used for evidence-based decision making? And what role do you see, in terms of reforms in, DARPG, given that you're already heading that?
Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to compliment Niti Aayog for launching this dashboard and bringing the revised IESS 2047. It's a very important step which has been taken today. My compliments to Niti Aayog, and I think they deserve a round of applause in the beginning itself. Now, I'll just like to highlight one or two points which will make the importance of data for energy transition and climate change very clear. One of the Nobel laureates who got Nobel Prize for this economics of climate change, William Nordhaus, he has described the problem of climate change as ultimate challenge for economics because it is not easy to find the solutions. The problem which occurred, and nobody noticed it, that it will happen like this. The emissions which were spewed by the developed countries, the technology which was there at that point of time, it is causing havoc all around today. And nobody knows actually what is the solution, who is responsible, and who will take action. Till a few years back, and I will say there are many naysayers today also, that what is happening, is it climate change or it is something else? Now, I will personally say that I was also just reading in the newspapers, heat waves in US, Europe, Australia, and even if in India it was happening in Northeast and all those. But you will notice that it has reached our doors. Those who come from ITOs and come from the across the Yamuna, you see that how ITO area was flooded. Now the impact is happening to us on our doors, to our economies, and we will need to invest a lot of money in taking care of the problem, although we are not responsible for this. So we will need to have investments in infrastructure. Now, one of our institute, Indian Institute of Public Administration, that was submerged in water. There were 120 students there. They were stuck up. They had to be rescued. The electricity was cut off. Now, all these systems will need to be refurbished and repaired. And mind you, that is an investment which is going from my budget. 60% of the rice fields in Punjab and Haryana, which contribute almost 20% of the rice contribution to the national uh, warehouse, it is flooded. Now, this will impact the food production. And now, all these things we have started taking action, and action is being taken by all. We are not familiar what is action which is to be taken. There are different technologies which are there. So all departments have started taking action at national and international level. Now, what action is to be taken? Which technologies will go forward? Now, there is no clarity on this. So I think data is the only point, only lighthouse which can guide the actions by different departments It can guide investments. In Government of India, there are 6 ministries which are dealing with energy-related things. And all of them have their own dashboards, all their databases are different. Well, how do you bring together all these things so that we can learn from each other? And many a times we feel that two ministries or two departments are taking simultaneous action, which could be in fact contrast to each other, opposite to each other. Now, having a common database, transparent database is absolutely necessary in policy making, in decision making, not only for the government department, but for the ministries, for the private sector, for research institutions, for the state governments. So hence the importance of this dashboard and database. One more point I would like to just, I will not take too much time because this could be an endless debate. One very important thing which all of us are actually unaware at this point of time is policy making and regulations. We make regulation based on some assumptions and past data. And once we make a policy, we believe that it is cast in stone. Actually, this will not work. The policy making will have to be dynamic. It has to be continuously evolved. And that can be done only on the basis of the data. Now, I'll just take one example. Mr. Malhotra is sitting here. He's a doyen of hydrogen in the country. There are different technologies people are propagating. But which technology will be better for India, which will suit in different industries or different sectors? You don't know. You will have to evaluate it and evaluate it continuously. So policy making will have to be dynamic and governance will have to be collaborative with the stakeholders, which is not there as of now. And this will have to be done absolutely necessary. And last point I'll just mention is that we make policies and we announce it. And we generally are not very good in tracking the progress of that. But what is happening nowadays, once you have announced something, somebody starts tracking it. Now, who is somebody? Somebody could be an individual sitting somewhere. Now, all our policies which we announce are tracked. The progress is tracked. It is published in newspapers. So, before anybody draws some wrong conclusions, having a common, transparent database is must. The startups are coming out. They know which are the hotspots in the country, which state has the hotspots in the country. So they are measuring it. So having a common database for truth is absolutely necessary. And it will give an opportunity to startups also to bring innovative products. And I think this could be a good tool which can help India to become a actually leader in climate change and energy transition. It's an opportunity for us and a good step. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. And I really think it is an extremely important point that you made about the need for, dynamic decision making. I think that's something which we will definitely need in the days to come, and data and tools can really be very helpful in that. May I now call upon Shri Pankaj Sharma, Director, PPAC, to also give us some insights. And what I would like to pose to you, sir, is that you do bring out projections for the oil and gas sectors and also for the end users. So how do you work around the assumptions and the data standardization? Because that's especially on the demand side always difficult to get to. And secondly, if you could also comment on the oil report which got released recently, what do you think is in it for India?
Thank you, Rituji. But before I come to your question, I will take forward the discussions raised by Barnath sir. In fact, last 4 months, this can't be, I say that this can't be more opportune or relevant time to release climate dashboard than this for at least in Delhi. Last 3-4 months, we are seeing so erratic weather. In April, it was heat wave in Delhi. May it was rains, and it was raining so much that people started saying that Delhi has become Simla. So that kind of talks were there. And then now for last 15, 20 days, we are seeing that Delhi is flooded. And at the same time, as said, USA, Europe, China, everywhere heat waves are there. So this is the right time that we realize that something wrong is happening with the climate. And it is right time that such dashboard is there and people start realizing that something drastic need to be done. Otherwise, as of now, what I say is that particularly I will say Delhi walas, when April, May rains were there, they were saying it has become Simla, without realizing, as shared by Amarnath sir also, that it is going to affect their kulchas and tandooris and bhaturas. Wheat crops will not be like this if climate keep changing, because every crop is related to some climate. So thank you, Niti Ayog, that such dashboard is coming. Now coming to data, it is said that data is new oil. And at PPSC, we deal, Rituji, in data of oil. So I say that हमारे पास data भी है और oil भी है. Such a wonderful combination. What is good about oil and gas data is that most of the oil and gas companies are very organized companies. Its sector is very organized, unlike what we hear about coal and others. So every one of them have very good data systems. They are on SaaS. So we get very good, authentic, reliable data on very regular basis in timely manner. And then we analyze that at PPSC. Just to share with the audience that internationally, monthly data gets released plus 2 months. At PPSC, we do it in 1 week after the month is over because of that kind of systems our companies have and we have. But question which Rituji have asked is about actually future data, not about the current data. Current data may help in designing or devising what will be the demand in future. But we need so many other factors for energy transition taking place in country and elsewhere. We need to find what will be the demand of energy 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 25 years from now. So for that, we need so many other factors, which are economic factors like GDP, economic growth, population, per capita income, so many other things, prosperity, urbanization, all these data is required. And we collect that data from various very reliable sources. And we then build our model, which is almost similar to Niti Ayog model, although our factors may be different. We also try to collaborate with Niti Ayog to understand whether we are going in the right direction or not. So that kind of data is collected and that is weaved into the past data, current data, and we apply bottom-up approach from each sector. We have 6 sectors from where we collect data of their progress, their growth, and then we arrive at the numbers for future. For paucity of time, I will take only one example that which is most talked about sector, which is cooking. Although transport is talked about a little more, but I will take example of cooking. Cooking, we consider various things, including urbanization, population, family sizes, that kind of factors we consider it when we try to find out what will be the demand in future. Rituji, what one factor which I will like to share with you or and audience is that we also try to find consumer behavior when we talk, we decide what will be the volume for cooking in future. For example, when we are currently on the job and we are trying to estimate the numbers, we try to find that how consumer of future will behave. To give you example, we are of the view that the girls which are going to schools today, they are educated, they will never use cow dung. They will never use wood. They will certainly demand from their families that they should allocate some funds. The way mobile has entrenched into our families, the same way they will insist that LPG should be used. So we will certainly see from 10 years from now, 15 years from now, in this Amrit Kal as is called in country, that we will suddenly see jump in cleaner fuels in cooking. And LPG is one of the primary fuels in cooking. So LPG, we find that if we do not consider that part, will have lower demand, but if we try to understand that consumer behavior, housewife behavior will change in next 10, 15 years, the demand will be much more. So that kind of estimates we also take into consideration. Still, I will say that it is very difficult to project and do modeling for energy for any other thing also. So it is quite unpredictable kind of so many other things happen in world. The COVID happened, Ukraine, Russia conflict happened. So you can't predict all those things. So it is difficult. So it is very important that we revisit projections or models very frequently. Including this area, as sir also talked about, that suddenly last time when we did this model was in 2021, hydrogen was only being talked about, but today every forum, every conference is talking about hydrogen. So changes require that we visit these models very frequently. And I again, I will end with this, that again, I will congratulate Niti Aayog. We are thankful that we are coming with online kind of modeling, where factors will keep changing and we will know the changing demand patterns. Thank you, Rituji.
Thank you so much, sir, for those insights, and especially again on your point about linking consumer behavior. I think that's extremely important going ahead because we are seeing transitions, and these transitions, I think, ought to be factored into the thinking probably simultaneously across our different visioning of how the country is going to move forward and how different sections of society will evolve. So thank you very much for that. May I now call upon Shri Piyush Kumarji, Director, Ministry of Coal. And again, I think the question I would like to pose to you is that in the coal sector, this is definitely going to be the one sector where we are going to see the most important transitions. So from your perspective, how do you see the need for data and modeling with regard to the transitions of coal vis-a-vis other fuels, and your insights on that?
Hello. Thank you, ma'am. Um, of them are building dashboard for last so many years. I just wanted to say that energy security is very important. And there are major 3, 4 category sources like coal, oil and gas, renewable. And in the present scenario, data with one ministry is not sufficient, and the data available with various ministries influence a lot. There is a need to understand the various scenarios also, because the data which we prepare for today, the scenario may change after 10 years or 15 years. Coal sector is such a sector which takes a time to start. If you go for starting, you explore a block coal, it will take 4 or 5 years to start. Capital intensive, investment for 25 years. So not only for the policy perspective, for the investors also in the private or public sector, they need to understand the scenario, the position to take policy decisions and also the investment decisions. So what I wanted to say that because the scenario is also changing, technology is changing. Right now, 80% coal is fed to power generation. The scenario may change with gasification or some other use of coal. In the steel industry also DRI, and then and then the growth of coal will also depend upon the growth of solar. So the data only from the coal sector will not be sufficient to foresee what will happen in 2047. Because, and also the scenario like urbanization, you have seen about the cooling scenario, how many cooling areas are required. So energy requirement may also change. So right now we saw that sector, the growth in or everything will depend upon the growth of other sectors also. That's why the scenario which has been built in 2047 will have a very good analytical tool which will help every sector to make a policy, and it will be a dynamic, so you can have a course correction in the future also, because you do not know that the other sector how much they are going to grow. So right now, being the prime source of energy in India, we should be responsible to ensure that if there is any lacuna in the growth of any sector, we need to complement it. So that's it. I hope that this portal will help in taking decisions for various sectors.
Thank you so much, sir. Again, I think that is the greatest challenge we have in terms of looking at the coal sector. And as you mentioned, we would need to go slowly, flexibly in planning how we go ahead. So continuously looking at data and changing our scenarios to see where we evolve is going to be extremely important. May I turn to Dr. Suneet Singh? He's the head of Department, Energy, Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay. And to you, I basically would like to pose the question in terms of the role that you see for various tools and models in both the energy and the climate domains. And how do you see IESS as a tool which can contribute to better policy and decision making? So over to you, Dr. Singh.
So I will first thank the IO for invite. And IIT Bombay has been in forefront of energy research for a long time. We were first as energy department in 2008, and now all the IITs are going for this department. So basically, energy has suddenly become such an important thing. Earlier, nobody really thought about energy as a separate department. When I joined here in 2009, the question always was, why energy department? Now, nobody will ask that question. So, various panelists have touched about various topics related to energy. A few things which are important is we work on the analytical tools. As this panel discussion is about analytical tools and data. So analytical tools basically looking at data, right? Because data, you can collect the data, but how to utilize it? That is one important aspect which I think needs to be thought about. Because future you have to be developed using these tools. So when you look at the data, there are many ways to generate scenarios, and scenarios cannot be unique. That is the major problem, as Shri Amarnath already touched upon this, that data dynamism, because data is changing continuously. So that dynamism has to be somehow incorporated these scenario building measures. And this data dissemination and dynamism, two things which have become very important. So you can generate data, you can collect data, but main problem is the stakeholders need that data. And the problem comes from the fact that many times there is no common platform where I can look for data. So I've been teaching a course called Power Generation and Systems Planning for last 5-6 years. And the starting point of that course always is the energy scenario in India and the world. And one major problem I face is that when I try to tell what is going on, where to look for data. For example, in the US, you can go to Energy Information Administration website. And immediately, every month, I know that data collection is maybe better in India, but examination is something. So these tools, these dashboards, actually allow us to get the data immediately. And they are available in a public platform. And it has to be conveyed to industry, to academia, to research institution. The data is available. And where, because unless dissemination is there, even if we generate the data, it is not. So I think from Niti Aayog to actually make these kind of dashboards and publicize it also. So this launch in a public forum is very important, because unless we do it, people will not even know where to look for the data. Another important point which I want to point out here is that data dynamism, already Sri Amarnath have touched upon it, and Sri Pankaj Sharma was also saying that, for example, hydrogen. 2 years back, there was some talk about hydrogen. And if you look 5 years back, There was nothing. I mean, at one time in 80s, 90s, somewhere hydrogen was a big thing. And suddenly there was no one talking about hydrogen. And in just 2 years, now every industry which visits IIT Bombay wants to work only on hydrogen. Every student wants to take project on it. So it has become such a big thing in just 2 years of time frame. So that kind of dynamism has come into the data, especially energy related, but everywhere else. If you see UN projections for population of China, China's population was supposed to peak in 2031. Then it was supposed to peak in 2028. And actually it peaked last year. Right? Same thing with Korea. So the things are moving very fast. The world has changed in a way that what used to take place in 50 years now takes place in 5 years. Not only in energy scenario, energy is obviously very, very dynamic because of the climate change issues. I'm not touching upon climate change because it has already been covered. But the way society has changed, the communication has increased, education has increased, the changes take place in years, which were earlier taking place in decades and centuries. So that kind of dynamism has to be captured. And that is where this kind of dashboard will come very handy, because one thing is that it allows you to give different scenarios. I will not get into details because I have to present it separately later. But the idea here is that I can generate my own scenario based on the inputs I can have. So these kind of things are needed. This dynamism, the dissemination, all these important things have to be there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And last but not the least, I turn to Shri Srinivas Krishnaswamy, CEO Vasudha Foundation. And to you, my question, of course, is on the ICED dashboard, which we are going to launch today. So again, in developing this data portal and bringing together all the data, you must have faced a lot of challenges. So we would like to know what were the challenges and how did you sort of address them? And and going forward, especially on the energy demand side, how is it that you see the challenges being addressed, and what differentiates ICED from other databases? So over.
Thanks, Ritu, and a very good morning, all of you. Um, Coming straight to your point, question, Ritu. Yes, I still remember a year and a half back, 2 years back, when we actually started to conceptualize with Team Niti on what the dashboard should look like. We must have burnt a lot of midnight oil, spent a lot of time brainstorming on what, where are we going to get the data? What is the kind of data sets that should go to making the dashboard? Where are we going to get the data from? What are the parameters that we should cover? The idea was to have or develop a very comprehensive dashboard that covers a wide range of parameters covering the entire energy sector value chain, looking at key climate indicators, climate data, and also key economic indicators. That was the whole purpose. So that was the thought behind which we decided to go about, or what drove us in designing the dashboard. Having said that, the whole issue was the data. Yes, in the last 5-7 years, India has made rapid strides in terms of data accessibility and transparency. There are a number of dashboards, a lot of data that's available. And as Mr. Pankaj Sharma said, the data that comes out from the PPAC stable itself is so very rich and so very dynamic and so very granular and so very regular. It's almost near real time, I would say. But the question was that how do we bring all of the data together? Some of the data were in dashboards, which was relatively easy. A lot of the data was in reports, in the form of reports. For example, the entire demand side data, the entire data pertaining to consumers could be only found after going through hundreds and hundreds of tariff orders. And each of the tariff orders had so much of data, not all of them were available easily on dashboard or easily available. The other challenge that we did also face was that there was a lot of data that was available in PDF format, which is fine. There were a lot of data that was available through scanned documents, which is which is a lot more difficult to, which meant that there was a fair amount of labor that had to go in to key in all the data. But then also the point is, and as someone said, where do we find the data? Where are the sources where the data is available? So those were the challenges that we found. And then, that required a fair amount of research to see what the data, which are the various reports that gives data, from the PFC reports, the Power Finance Corporation reports, to tariff orders, to the multiple dashboards. That got us going. So, like I said, the main challenge then was that, understanding the various dashboards, because a lot of these dashboards, some of them are known, some of them are not known, some of them, people are not aware of. The reports, some of them are easily available, some of them are not really, were not easily available. So how do we address that? So that was the main thing that, that we had to address. And so having said that, uh, having put all of this together, what we really got, and I'm not going to get into the details because that will anyway come in another few minutes from now. But what we were able to develop with Team Niti is to come up with a very comprehensive dashboard that covers the entire length and breadth of energy sector value chain, looking at the climate and climate data, climate variability, and of course, key economic indicators. Ritu, you had one more question, right? Yeah, so what actually differentiates us, or if I can say, what is unique about this dashboard? The uniqueness of the dashboard is that, A, it brings together data from multiple sources together in one place. B, it helps the user to mix and match the various parameters to get a cross-sectoral linkages, which is very important because that's kind of holistic picture. So for example, the impact of water scarcity on the performance of, let's say, a coal-fired power plant. That sort of linkage, because the water data or the water table data is put out by the Central Water Commission, whereas the power sector data comes out from the CEA. Well, what we have done is we've married those elements. Just to give you a small example, the impact of water shortage on the performance of coal-fired power plants, or the impact of climate variability on demand. You're increasing hot days on your AC use, for example. What we have in the what we also have, for example, what makes it unique is that we have something called an analytics section. So the analytics section actually mixes and matches various parameters to give a holistic picture, draws the sectoral and cross-sectoral linkages, and more importantly, it also brings in various other parameters like land or water or air quality that have an impact on the decision that we make on what our future energy should look like. For example, one other thing that I would like to also, then the surprise element is lost when the website is actually launched. But what we also have is hourly load curves, for all the states. So having hourly load curves for all the states, we are able to understand, where the demand is coming from, what drives the demand, the changes in temperature, for example, driving demand. So all that information which are would be unique. So that we think makes this dashboard unique.
Thank you so much, Srini. And I think with that, having heard everybody on the panel, what is very clear is that there is a very big need at this juncture for people to have data and ways to look at scenarios at their fingertips. And we see a lot of data, a lot of hard work being already put into these two tools that we are going to launch today. So I think it's a matter of importance that we will be able to all be users of these two tools in the days to come. So looking forward to the launch, but just to thank everybody on the panel for their very insightful views and I would just like to move to felicitating each of our panelists for their kind words and sparing their time. Thank you.
Rituji, before we go for that, since all the panelists raised this issue, that in India, unlike US, where there is one energy ministry, we have so many energy ministries in country. There has been an effort, and in fact, it has fructified where even Niti Aayog was leading one of the task force on supply side of data. That energy data management unit has come up led by Ministry of Power, where Niti Aayog is there, BE is there, PPSC is there, MOSFI is there, even Ministry of Coal is there. So I am sure that soon there will be one place where all kind of energy data should be available.
Sure. Thank you so much.
We have a little felicitation for them. So I would like to request Advisor Energy and Natural Resources and Environment Niti Aayog, Shri Rajnath Ram, to please come on the stage and felicitate the panelists. Let's have a round of applause for the juncture, my dear friends. We have these planters for our distinguished guests. Firstly, we are presenting it to Shri Amarnath. This is a kind of green gratification from our side. Shri Pankaj Sharma. Let's have a round of applause. We are thanking them and presenting our gratification. Shri Piyush Kumar. We provide you a green gratification, sir. Dr. Sunil Singh. We would like to present this planter to you, sir, and thank you for being our panelist. And Shri Srinivas Krishnaswamy. We please have a round of applause for this panelist, my dear friends. Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed an insightful discussion. Thanking you all. Since we are having this photo up on the stage, I would like to inform all of you that now we'll be starting with our launch program. And in this launch program, soon we'll be joined by the Vice Chairperson of Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Buri. He'll be joining us in due course. Till that time, we can initiate this session. And for that, I would like to invite the dignitaries on the dais one by one. So as I shared with you that Vice Chairperson Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Buri, he'll be joining us soon. And also we'll be soon joined by the CEO of Niti Aayog, Shri BVR Subramaniam. So as soon as the dignitaries are here, then we'll be initiating with the formal program. And friends, as once again, I would like to share with you all that we are here for the launch of India Energy Security Scenario 2047 and India Climate and Energy Dashboard. So we are really delighted to have this always presence of you people, because whenever we want to make a difference, it's very much important to take a first step, because our first step always takes us closer and closer to what we have decided. And today I'm happy that we all are holding hands together to reach up to that goal. Soon we'll be joined by the dignitaries, and as soon as they are here, my dear friends, then we'll be initiating the formal program. Thank you. Setting up the dice for the launch, the moment for which we all are here together. Friends, as we all know that NITI Aayog serves as the apex public policy think tank of the Government of India and the nodal agency tasked with catalyzing economic development and fostering cooperative federalism through the involvement of state governments of India in the economic policy making process using a bottom-up approach. So today is the day when the Aayog is hosting all of us to this launch of India Energy Security Scenario 24/7 and India Climate and Energy Dashboard, along with the technical partners, Vasudha Foundation and IIT Bombay. Of course, as we have been talking about these dashboards and the portal, of course, we are going to have a demo as well in this launch session for the same. So as soon as we'll be joined by the dignitary, we'll be initiating the formal program of the launch ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now joined by the CEO, NITI Aayog, Shri BVR Subramanian, sir. We welcome, sir. And now it's the time that we should initiate with this formal launch program. And for that, I would like to invite the dignitaries on the dais. Please join me in welcoming on the dais. Firstly, Member Energy Niti Aayog, Dr. V.K. Saraswat. Please put your hands together for him. I request you, sir, please join us on the dais. I request CEO Shri BVR Subramaniam also to please join us on the dais. Let's have a round of applause for them. I request Head of the Department, Energy Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay, Professor Suneet Singh, to please join us on the dais. Also, with your round of applause, I would like to invite CEO Vasudha Foundation, Shri Srinivas Krishnaswamy, on the dais. Also, I would like to request Advisor Energy, Natural Resources and Environment Niti Aayog, Shri Rajnath Ram, to please join us on the dais. Let's have a round of applause for his welcome. Thank you, sir. So as I had already shared with you that Vice Chairperson Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Beri, he will be joining us in due course. And to initiate with this formal launch of India Energy Security Scenario 2047 version 3.0 and India Climate and Energy Dashboard, firstly, I would like to request the Advisor Energy and Natural Resources and Environment Niti Aayog, Shri Rajnath Ram, to please present the welcome address. Please put your hands together for him.
Respected member Dr. V.K. Saraswat, respected CEO Niti Aayog, and other distinguished panelists on the dais, and all the related members from the think tanks and academia. Very warm welcome to this August gathering, the launching of India Energy Security Scenario 2047 and India Climate Energy Dashboard. We all know this exercise of Indian Energy Security Scenario and ICAD have been in the purview for quite a long time. But this time, these tools we have revamped with the perspective of all the recent COP26 announcement made by Honorable Prime Minister. And you'll be hearing that from our panelists also. Let me take a small differentiation what this tool makes for the country as a whole and for the relevant stakeholders, including the government ministries and the departments. First of all, in this Indian Energy Security Scenario 2047, this is an open source tool. So any user can download it. It is transparent. You will also get to know what are the different equations, what are the jumps gone behind developing this tool. So it is a transparent number one. This would also help the ministry and departments to strategize the program towards achieving the 2047 goals, what has been said by the Honorable Prime Minister, a Viksit Bharat. The tool ICAD is also integration of all data sources, both the supply side and the demand side, and making available at one single platform. And this tool has been refocused towards integrating all set of data and making it a near real time. But we are working in our next phase to make it a real time tool so you can get a comprehensive view of all the energy sectors, how the things and the things lines are moving on. So let me welcome all for this August launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Friends, whenever we talk about any subject, it's very important to understand the context of the same. So now, for understanding the context of India Energy Security Scenario 2047, I would like to invite the gentleman who is currently serving as professor and head of the Department of Energy, Science and Engineering at IIT Bombay. He has been awarded with Bhaskara Award Solar Energy Year 2014 from Indo-US Science and Technology Forum. My dear friends, please put your hands together for Professor Sunit Singh.
First of all, I would like to thank Niti Aayog for inviting me to this which of the IESS and ICD. Shri Subramaniam ji, Shri Dr. Saraswat, Shri Krishna Swami ji, and ladies and gentlemen. So we are meeting here today to launch IESS 2047 and ICED. I am here representing IIT Bombay. As I already mentioned during the panel discussion, that IIT Bombay has been at the forefront of energy research. Our department, especially, which is Department of Energy, Science and Engineering, has been working at various areas, including batteries, solar thermal, solar PV, even conventional energy, oil and gas. We have an oil and gas center, by the way, is sponsored by several oil PSUs. So IIT Bombay has been working with Niti Aayog for some time to develop this tool IESS. So IESS, I think by now you may be familiar, is in an Indian energy security scenarios. And here 2047 stands for, we are right now looking at the scenarios up to 2047. So essentially what it does is that it provides different energy scenarios using a bottoms-up approach. I will come to more details about this in a few minutes. So Niti Aayog launched its first version in February 2014, which was superseded by second version in August 2015. And this is what we call as version 3, or in current IT language 3.0. So this project, along with Niti Aayog, was driven by IIT Bombay. And mainly Professor Rangan Banerjee, who was head of the department at that time, was leading it with several other faculty and students. Recently, I think many of you know, he moved to IIT Delhi as the director of IIT Delhi. So after that, obviously, there were many faculty working on that. And other than, there are many students. And Niti Aayog was also working on that. So there was still a team. So we worked on that. I was personally not involved, except that I had almost daily coffee with one of the participants, Professor Venkat Ramadesigan, who is currently in US. So I had some information, so it helped me today to actually talk about it. So I would like to point out that throughout this development, IIT Bombay was working with Niti Aayog, and we are really thankful to Niti Aayog for providing all the support which was needed, because as IIT Bombay, we have lots of analytical information, how to develop a model, what are the equations which go in, what are the different kind of regression analysis which is needed. But data, which we talked about earlier during panel discussion also, is something which Niti Aayog has to coordinate with ministries and different people to actually get the data and check whether these scenarios really work out. So what IESS does? So IESS considers various demand and supply sectors to give an integrated overall scenario of energy in India. So what it incorporates the latest developments and policy announcements. For example, green hydrogen, carbon capture, storage, alternative, increased penetration of renewables and nuclear energy, etc. So all these scenarios are kind of inbuilt in that. So now each sector in IESS is modeled using different levers. So each lever has again 4 different levels. So when I talk about these different levels, we actually look at 4 different trajectories. There is level 1, which is pessimistic scenario. We don't do anything and let's see what happens. Business as usual. I'm not going into detail because name itself is kind of self-explanatory. Optimistic scenario and heroic scenario. So without actually name themselves actually are quite explanatory. So this IESS 2047 version 3 allows us, the users, to define values outside the user-defined, basically it gives you an option of user-defined trajectory direction. So user will be in 5 scenarios actually. You change the input parameters and then scenarios will change. So that is one thing that I think we were discussing in the panel discussion also, that dynamism is there in the energy scenario. So that dynamism can be captured by looking at different cases. So this model is up to 2047. We are working on extending it to up to 2070. And we also want to include lifetime emissions. So it's a very comprehensive tool, but we have to improve it further. Any model needs to be evolving, looking at the different scenarios. So I will like to close now with the hope that this tool will be useful for all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Friends, as we all know now that on this stage, we are joined by the Vice Chairperson, Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Beri. So let's have a thunderous round of applause for his welcome. We welcome you, sir. And now moving on, it's the time for the context setting for ICED. And for that, I would like to invite the gentleman who has over 2 decades of experience working on the issues of economic reforms, sustainable development, and the environment. In 2010, he founded the Vasudha Foundation, a notable organization dedicated to advocating environment-friendly, socially just, and sustainable models of development. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for CEO Vasudha Foundation, Shri Srinivas Krishnaswamy. Let's welcome him.
Dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries off the dais, colleagues and friends, a very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of Niti Aayog and the technical partners, Vasudha Foundation and IIT Mumbai, I would also welcome you to this launch of the India Climate Energy Dashboard and the India Energy Security Scenarios. Compared to what the situation was a few years back, India has indeed made rapid strides in making available data and information. However, to make most of the wealth of this information, it is crucial to transform this into organized knowledge. With this thought process in mind, the development of the India Climate and Energy Dashboard was conceptualized in Niti Aayog in February 2022. The whole idea then was, with the announcement of India being net zero by 2070, it was felt that in the development of decarbonization pathways, it becomes essential to focus not just on the broad sector level data, but also deep dive into subsectoral data, and importantly, look at the linkages and the cross linkages between sectors. Further, we also felt that it would be also good to look at other issues that will have an impact, such as land availability, water issues, and of course, factoring in the climate variability and so on. And also look at the key economic indicators and keep in mind the vision that India has set for itself. So with all of that, we decided to go we went to the drawing board to see on what should the ICED look like. What are the kind of parameters that we should look at, the length and breadth of parameters, the depth to which we need to go into each of the parameters, looking at the look and feel of the dashboard, looking at the user interface and ease of navigation, and importantly, access to information in a manner that the user would like to have. What we also said to ourselves when we conceptualized the whole thing, or when we went to the drawing board, is that we wanted, we had a vision that this dashboard would be one of its kind, the first of its kind, so to speak, India globally, that would bring together data from a wide range of parameters. And I'm extremely happy to inform you that the India Climate Energy Dashboard today provides comprehensive, granular, historic, and near real-time data from the entire energy sector value chain, key economic indicators, and data from the climate space. With over 2,000 infographics, 500 data parameters, woven from 800 power plant units, and if you can add all the other plant units, I would say about 1,000 plus, 500 tariff orders, 400 weather monitoring stations, 700 air quality monitoring stations, 760 odd districts, and hundreds of reports and websites are all threaded together to make ICD what it is today. In our view, like I said, our vision of the dashboard being one of its kind, we believe would be one of its kind, not just in India, but also globally. Further, the dashboard also showcases the immense efforts that India has already taken in addressing climate change. In my view, sirs, the launch of the dashboard, we think, is extremely timely, given the fact that we have the Clean Energy Ministerial that's happening in Goa, and then we have the G20 summit of the India presidency scheduled in September, and then the COP28, the important, the Conference of Parties 28 that is scheduled in Dubai, which will undertake a global stocktake. This would be a wonderful platform. The ICD could showcase the immense efforts that India has taken in addressing climate change. It has a tracker that's updated on a regular basis. Like I said, it's a near real-time database. May I take this opportunity to once again thank Niti Aayog to provide us with this opportunity in partnering with them in conceptualizing and curating this dashboard. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the multiple ministries and departments who joined hands to furnish the dashboard with valuable data, and we extend our heartfelt thanks to them. While we believe that we have covered a fair number of grounds in terms of data and information, we have also put in place a plan for phase 2 that Rajnathji already alluded to, which would entail inclusion of a number of new parameters, including industries and end-use applications. We are also exploring improving the user interface by including features such as artificial intelligence-driven query builder, automated data retrieval and updation, amongst others. What we also intend doing, and with the support of all of you, I'm sure we can do it, is to make it real-time and not near real-time. So we want to have it as a real-time. With this short statement, we look forward continuing the journey with all of you. Thank you once again. Namaskar. Namaskaram.
Thank you so much, sir. And now, my dear friends, we have some video messages for us addressed by the dignitaries. We are having this video message from Shri Tarun Kapoor. He is an IESS officer of the 1987 batch belonging to the Himachal Pradesh cadre and currently holds the position of advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of India. My dear friends, may we please have the video from Shri Tarun Kapoor. Let's have a round of applause for them.
Happy that Niti Aayog has taken this initiative. Both launches today, they are both very important. While the tool developed by Niti Aayog is we've seen that earlier also, and now they're launching it. So this really helps in planning our energy for the future, and also the dashboard, which will give real-time information, and also all planners and users and various organizations, including startups which are in the energy field, they sometimes look for information which is slightly difficult to get. So, and Niti Aayog has that credibility, so that the information should be available through this dashboard would be very authentic and can also be quoted. I must also say that for India, going forward, clean energy is very important. We have been talking about energy transition. We've been talking about developing the country in such a manner so that our growth is sustainable. We have done very well. Our installed capacity in renewables has increased phenomenally over the last few years. We are now leaders in solar. In wind also, we have done quite well. And on the other side now, the transport sector is also looking up. The EV penetration is increasing, and we are quite hopeful that in the coming years, this will also go up. We've done quite well in biofuels also. Our ethanol blending is already at almost 12%, and we will achieve the 20% target well before time. So, but then probably we have to still scale up and move much, much faster to achieve the 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel based installed capacity by 2030. And I'm quite sure we will be able to do that with efforts of all the stakeholders. My good wishes to the organizers, and I must also say that we all have to work as a team, all the developers and all the private sector companies as well as PSUs working in this space, and try to achieve the targets which have been set by the Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you.
Our next video message is from the dignitary who is the current G20 Sherpa of India during its presidency year, and he has held various significant positions, including CEO of Niti Aayog as well. I would like to share with you that as a member of the Indian Administrative Service, he has been instrumental in driving initiatives such as Make in India, Startup India, and Incredible India, which have positioned and branded India as a leading manufacturing and tourism destinations. My dear friends, the video message from G20 Sherpa, Shri Amitabh Kant.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, India is pioneering a new model of economic development that could avoid the carbon-intensive approaches that many countries have pursued in the past, and provide a blueprint for other developing economies. The Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, announced Panchamrit targets at COP26, which provide the complete vision for the country in terms of its developmental approach. The scale of transformation in India is extremely stunning. Its economic growth has been among the highest in the world over the past 2 decades, lifting millions of people above the poverty line. A recent report of Niti Aayog published this week highlights that 135 million people are pulled out of poverty in 5 years between 2015-16 and 2019-21. India today emerged as the 5th largest economy and is expected to be the 3rd largest by 2027. India's economic growth has not come at the cost of environment. India's historical contribution to cumulative global greenhouse gas emissions is minuscule, just 4%, despite having a share of 18% of the world population. India's per capita emissions are about a third of the global average. India has built a top-notch ecosystem for expansion of renewables and ranks 4th today in the world in terms of total renewable capacity. India ranks is best amongst the G20 in climate change performance index. The Indian government at both the central and the state has announced to incentivize green growth. achieving net zero is not greenhouse gas emissions. India transition citizens and well-designed policies that can limit the potential trade-offs between affordability, security, and sustainability. It is on the Aayog to understand the various trade-offs as India embarks on a developmental story which places low carbon growth at center of such strategy. In line with rapid technological advancements and our COP26 targets, Niti Aayog has updated the India energy security scenario modeling tool, which includes emerging technologies in the energy space like green hydrogen, energy storages, electrical mobility, grid integration, biofuels. Further, this analytical tool has to be also supported by robust data. The development of India's climate energy dashboard would certainly meet this critical gap. I congratulate and commend the Niti Aayog team for their path-breaking efforts in launching these tools. These will be instrumental in developing an analytical framework for policy making and accelerating India's clean energy transition. It is our hope and desire that these tools will support the development of realistic energy models for the country and facilitate informed decision making. Thank you very much.
And now, my dear friends, it's the time for the formal launch. But to initiate with, we would like to present a video on India Energy Security Scenario 2047, that is IESS 2047. So presenting before you the video, and after that, we'll be having the formal launch of the same. Would you please have the video on screen?
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा। अब आज जब अमृत काल की पहली प्रभात है, तो हमें इस 25 साल में विकसित भारत बना के रहना है।
It's the time for the formal launch of India Energy Security Scenario 2047. I would request Vice Chairperson Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Bedi, to please click this video. I know that we'll be doing the photo up as well. Here is a clicker. With this click, we'll be formally launching this India Energy Security Scenario 2047 version 3.0. Let's have a round of applause, friends. Officially, India Energy Security Scenario 2047 is launched, and we have got this booklet as well. So I would like to request you to kindly unmute this. I would also request our senior specialist, Niti Aayog, Shri Venu, to please also join in for this launch, this booklet of IESS 2047 version 3.0. And here is the figure for this launch. Let's have the friends. It's a moment to cherish for lifetime. Thank you so much, sir, for this juncture. And now we are going to be witnessing yet another video. And that video will be about India climate and energy dashboard. Will you please have the video on the screen?
While India has already embarked on energy transition, the pathways towards net zero is being developed. At the cusp of this journey, we present India Climate and Energy Dashboard, a one-stop platform for India's energy, climate, and related economic data sets. This unique dashboard would provide much-needed data to enable policymakers, think tanks, academia, industry bodies, financial institutions, and other stakeholders engaged in this journey. The dashboard is an open access knowledge platform. It has user-friendly interface and easy to download data in multiple formats. With credible and official data from government sources and one point of access to government dashboards. The dashboard provides near real-time, daily, weekly, and monthly updates. It has granular data covering state, district, plant, unit, DISCOM, and consumer level info. With spatial and temporal insightful analysis using GIS and energy modeling tools. Further, the dashboard has integrated datasets cross-sectoral approach, linking energy, climate, and economy. In-depth analytics offering inbuilt queries. And dynamic visualization providing interactive and innovative data representation. Featuring over 500 parameters and over 2,000 infographics, that include historic and current data at DISCOM and district levels, ICED is a live repository and encyclopedia for energy and climate practitioners. For instance, the user wants to track India's renewable energy progress. At a glance on the dashboard, the user can see India's current cumulative power installed capacity, its renewable energy targets for 2030, and the net zero roadmap for 2070. The user can further explore the increasing capacity addition of renewable energy sources, a significant increase in solar rooftop installation by consumers, and the shift towards clean energy in power procurement by DISCOMs. And in this way, the dashboard brings together various aspects, providing the user with insightful analysis of energy and climate data. ICED is poised to expand its offering to improve granularity with regional analytics, interactive features like Query Builder, and is adding more and more datasets by the day. Our commitment is to partner India's efforts in meeting its clean energy goals.
The clicker on the stage, and we'll request Shri Suman Bedi, Vice Chairperson Niti Aayog, to please click and do the formal launch of India Climate and Energy Dashboard. Just a click, and we are able to launch. Let's have a round of applause, friends. India Climate and Energy Dashboard is formally launched now. We have this booklet and brochure, so I would request sir to unveil that as well. Let's have a round of applause for this unveiling, friends. This is the brochure for India Climate and Energy Dashboard, and now we can formally say that IESS 2047 version 3.0 and ICED is formally launched now. So we can have a round of applause with this. Thank you so much, sir. And now, my dear friends, I would like to invite on a gentleman for the address. About him, I would like to share that an Indian Administrative Service Officer of 1987 batch Chhattisgarh cadre, Shri Subramanian, has held important assignments over the last 3 decades in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Jammu and Kashmir, along with a stint at World Bank. So, my dear friends, he's here with us. CEO, let's put this together for Shri R. Subramanian.
Respected Vice Chairman, Member Niti Aayog, Dr. Saraswat, dignitaries on the dais and friends in the audience. I'm extremely happy that we've reached the end of the journey and we have launched these two platforms and tools today. And I think it's very, very historic. Firstly, I mean, these two are outstanding examples of how NITI should be working. As a think tank of the government and as a center for networking with academia and other institutions which are working in this space. I mean, this is an excellent role model for how various parts of NITI should be working. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. For that, I compliment Rajnath Ram under the guidance of the member who have been actually leading this, and I also compliment the organizations, Vasudha and IIT Mumbai, who have been associated with it. I think this is something, a big takeaway about how such things should be done. I mean, the subject of environment and climate change, I think, are at the top of our minds, at the top of our recall wherever we go. Innumerable conferences, innumerable seminars. We all know, I don't want to repeat the data. I mean, we have the standard story, India, we have a low carbon footprint per capita. We are much less than the global average. We're about 40% of the global average. It's a well-known fact. And we've also had very ambitious goals, and you heard a brief clip of the Prime Minister in one of the videos where he set very ambitious goals for all of us, be it about energy efficiency, intensity of the economy, be it about the additional energy generation from non-renewables, about the energy capacity additions in the non-renewable area, but most importantly, the net zero target, which he has announced about India reaching net zero by 2070. So I think that's a very big challenge for us. Simultaneously, we have to be conscious of the fact that we are a large country, almost 1.3 billion, heading to somewhere like we'll stabilize around 1.5 billion with our own growth aspirations and the development path, which is also available, is visible to us. So the biggest challenge for all of us is how do we reconcile? How do we reconcile our development goals, ambitions, which is natural and undeniable, along with sustainability on the other side? So I think, and that's why we use the word just transition. So while the rest of the world and our country can debate how do we do this, etc., the most important thing for all of us who are practitioners, designers, and implementers of policy and programs and scheme is we need tools to be able to actually do what we need to do. So I think that's the most important thing. A, data, and two is tools. Without data and tools, all of them become nice, holy statements, which we do not know whether we will reach or not. And I think that is the biggest step we are taking today. I mean, the tools give us the capacity to monitor, to plan, to strategize, to track developments. And I think it's a long journey. 2070 is not tomorrow. It's 47 years down the road. And it is going to take a while. But things that are done today will change the path that we go along. We may not realize the consequences, we will realize it a bit late. So I think the biggest contribution which NITI and the partners are doing today is giving policymakers, program makers, scheme designers the tools to take decisions, to take corrective action, to take positive action. I mean, we're all aware fossil has to shift to non-fossil. That's on the supply side. On demand side, we have to increase the efficiency. We need to reduce intensity of energy as well as demand for fossil fuels. While this is known, what the tools do is the tools like IESS help you look at what are the trajectories in a no change scenario, modify trajectories based on alternate assumptions, plan for the future. The plans lead to policies, and the policies lead to schemes, and then action on the ground. I think that's the biggest utility of IESS from one point of view. And the big thing it does is, while we are doing a lot of work, there is a lot of action happening in India. If you look at data from ministry after ministry, whether it's renewable energy, whether it is power, whether it is other sectors, there's a gradual shift that's happening. But I think what IESS does is it brings the entire ecosystem into one platform, into one tool, and integrates it as a whole. So it's giving you demand side projections, demand side scenarios, as well as supply side scenarios. And it does it knowing what are the current policies and things in place. And as they change, I'm sure the tool will also be modified to reflect the changes. The earlier tool, IESS 2.0, is 2015. 2015, if you look at the speed with which the world is evolving, at least in the climate arena, it's actually ancient prehistory. A lot of things have happened. A lot of water has flown down the Ganges since then. So I think this tool is timely, it's appropriate, it helps everybody to actually act based on data. I mean, it does a lot of things. I think the video has shown that. It helps you develop alternate scenarios. The number of scenarios that are possible are actually infinite. It actually is a tool which is open, it's accessible to all, to policymakers, to think tanks, to actually play with it, build alternate scenarios under alternate assumptions. A web-based tool gives you a graphical interface. You can actually visualize what it is. It's very powerful. And I'm sure the outputs it gives, like the impacts that will be there under different scenarios, or a scenario on energy, on costs, on land, on water, on greenhouse gas emissions, I think it will be extremely useful. I'm sure the old IESS, from what I gather, is used by a large number of agencies to do their own modeling and come out with reports. I'm sure it will be done. It will be done both outside government and inside government as far as this tool is concerned. So I think this is a solid asset to the nation. And I think both NITI and IIT Bombay are doing a big contribution to the nation in this particular area. Coming to the, I said, it's a dashboard, a wonderful dashboard. Again, just as you need a tool to actually plan, strategize, you also need a macro overview of what's happening cross-sectorally. The problem with the world is we all work in silos. The difficulty with climate is it's cross-cutting, it is inter-silo. So I think what this particular dashboard does, and I think again, it's an excellent piece of work with Vasudha Foundation, that it gives you an overview of the entire energy economy. It tells you all that you need to know about energy and all the dimensions, renewable, non-renewable, a whole range of things. It tells you a lot about environment and climate and what are all the issues there. It also brings in data on the economy, GDP, GVA, all that. It also brings in demography. So I think all these are relevant. A lot of times we are guided by what we think is, it's interesting. If you talk to the coal secretary in India, he will be talking about 2 billion production goal for coal, because they're just projecting into the future with a certain growth rate. But they're not realizing that there is somebody else who's actually changing track, which will have implication for that. And worse still, Indian Railways, 50% of their freight income is from coal. But what happens if the coal economy doesn't grow? What will happen to the economics of Indian Railways? So there are a lot of cross-cutting things, and I think our energy dashboard, which is publicly available, with data which is actually government data in public domain, but brought all together at one place, will enable people to do cross-cutting thinking. And the one big advantage of that particular dashboard is the analytics that have been brought in. So you can deep dive, you can compress across energy sectors, subsectors, you can compare across multiple parts of the economy. So I think that will help. My only request to both my energy vertical, Rajnath and the partners, is we should keep working. The tool IESS should keep getting revised, because there will be a rapidly changing policy environment as we go along. What didn't exist 8 years ago is there today. What is there today will change rapidly 5 years down the road. Similarly, with the dashboard, we need to keep evolving and keep it up to date. And the second is, a lot of action is actually at the state level. So I think if the tool can be brought down for decision making at the state level, the green transition, while it looks nice at the macro level at Delhi, Government of India level, a lot of stuff actually has to be. So we need to bring it down to Chennai, Mumbai, Bangalore, Bhopal, Calcutta, so that they can take decisions. So both the IESS and the ISET should be brought evolved into tools which can be used at the state level. I wish you all the best. I compliment the team from NITI and the partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And now I would like to invite the gentleman. About him, I would like to share with you that he's a distinguished scientist with extensive experience in defense research and development. He played a pivotal role in the indigenous development of missiles, including Prithvi, Dhanush, Prahar, and Agni-5, and the Ballistic missile defense system. My dear friends, his contributions have earned him numerous accolades, including the prestigious Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan awards. Please put your hands together for member Dr. V.K. Saswat.
Namaskar, good afternoon. Honorable Vice Chairman Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Berry ji, my friend and dear colleague, Shri Subramaniam, CEO Niti Aayog, Dr. Suneet Singh, IIT Bombay, Dr. Srinivasan Krishnaswamy, my friend Rajnath Ram, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great occasion of launch of India energy security scenario. All of us are aware of the fact that greenhouse gas emissions are causing the global warming, and global warming is essentially responsible for the climate change what we are seeing today. The energy is one sector which is squarely responsible in different forms for the kind of emissions what we see today and the climate change. Recently, I presented some numbers to the G20 community that globally power, industry, and then of course the transport. These are three forms of energy which are largely responsible for the highest emissions, and India is no exception to that. We are certainly doing the same kind of emissions, but of course much lower order, as mentioned by Mr. Amitabh Kant. The globally work is working towards mitigation of these greenhouse gas emissions and bringing some control as far as the global warming is concerned. The steps which have been taken in this direction are well known to you. Recently, we had COP26 and 27 in Paris, and then we as well as globally commitments have been made. Our own Honorable Prime Minister made commitment by announcing the Panchamrit, and measures have been taken in our country today for containing the greenhouse gas emissions, which have been highlighted by many other speakers, like use of penetration of non-fossil fuel energy, alternative fuels like ethanol and ammonia and methanol and so on, and hydrogen, green hydrogen, measures like carbon capture, utilization and storage, and also depending more on nuclear energy and hence development of the small modular reactors and so on. Finally, the fact remains that with all these, the energy demand is increasing in a exponential manner. What we are today, about 427 installed gigawatts, it is expected that by 2030 we will be around 900 and odd gigawatts. So that is the kind of demand if it is increasing. Obviously, our concept has to be on sustainability, and sustainability comes if we have access, affordability, and efficiency. These are some of the measures which are important. Now, to track the effect of all this on the greenhouse gas emissions, as Mr. Subramaniam mentioned about the complete supply side as well as on the demand side, it becomes important that we have the tools for taking stock of what parameters are responsible and where we have to put our finger to contain. decision-making processes can be accelerated, can be enabled if we have a proper platform. India is the only big economy in the world which has delivered in letter and spirit of the Paris commitment. It has successfully built a globally competitive renewable energy industry. We have world-class clean energy players with top-notch executive capabilities. India ranks fourth in the terms of installed renewable energy capacity and share of non-fossil reached almost 42%. India's renewable capacity increased by 3 times since 2011 from 57 gigawatts in 2011 to 169 gigawatts in 2023. Given the rapid developments in the energy and climate space with the emergence of new technologies such as green hydrogen, energy storage, SMRs, NITI Aayog has undertaken an exercise to revamp the India energy security scenario tool to align with these latest developments and the Panchamit targets announced by the Honorable Prime Minister. The tool facilitates the user to choose a different combination of energy supply options to satisfy the demand. 17 supply sectors are identified for primary energy use, namely coal, capture and gas, large hydro, small hydro, nuclear, solar photovoltaic, concentrated solar power, distributed solar, onshore wind, offshore wind, biomass-based electricity, 2G biofuels, 3G biofuels, waste to energy, and imports and exports. The energy demand and supply are balanced using an accounting principle wherein unmet energy demand is met from imports, while in case of electricity, unmet electricity demand is met from coal generation. The updation of sectoral sheets of the IESS 2047 has the sectoral linkages that are also established with socio-economic indicators such as GDP, sectoral share of GDP, rate of urbanization, and popular growth. As seen in the earlier version, the tool can generate energy demand and supply scenarios in India leading up to about year 2047. The tool also provides for implications on water, land, cost, besides emissions and energy, indicating the richness of the tool. A comprehensive ICED 3.0 has been developed in collaboration with Vasudha Foundation that hosts energy-related data, renewable and non-renewable sources, electricity generation, transmission and distribution, along with data related to climate and environment like greenhouse gas emissions and climate variability, economy and demography like the key economic indicators and urban-rural population at a single access point. The details of the data types available can be seen in the ICED 3.0 site map with infographics on energy flows, sectoral emissions, groundwater resources, and biodiversity. I hope that line ministries, departments, sector experts, think tanks, and academic institutions benefit from these tools to develop realistic energy models for the country. If we succeed in persuading more users to engage with this tool, we will consider our efforts have been successful. I congratulate the energy team led by Shri Rajnath Ram, Advisor Energy, for their hard work and release of tool for the public consumption. And I wish all the users a happy time getting maximum information from the tool and taking measures and actions for mitigating what is the concern of the globe, the greenhouse gas emissions, and meeting the demand and supply of energy. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Your special address will always hold special positions in our hearts. Thank you so much. And now, my dear friends, it's the time to have the address of that gentleman who is the key person on the dais today. He is the Vice Chairperson of NITI Aayog, holding the rank and status of a cabinet minister. With a background in policy economics and research administration, he has a wealth of experience and expertise. Mr. Derry's extensive knowledge is reflected in his publications on topics including reform, banking, and energy trends. My dear friends, let's welcome Vice Chairperson NITI Aayog, Shri Suman Derry.
My respected colleague, member Dr. Saraswat,
supporters of this exercise, the Sudha Foundation, IIT, Bangalore, CEO, advisor Rajnath Ram. Let me just start by saying that twice, maybe three times in the last week, I've been rewarded by products that convince me that, as somebody said, Niti works at night. I know the CEO, honorable member, may have been involved, but in the MDPI report, in the event on e-mobility in Goa, and now in the presentation of both IESS 2047 and the ICED, I've been made proud by the tireless activity of staff seem always to produce surprises to the upside. So thank you all for your imagination, for your hard work, and for your concern for quality. Much has been said about the domestic dimensions of the energy transition. So what I thought I might do is to put these two tools in more of a global context. Let me start by observing that when I was DGNCAR at the time of the Copenhagen COP, I guess that was 2007 or 2008, the environment minister at that time, Jairam Ramesh, basically said, look, all the discussion and debate tends to be about models, and we are forced to use the models of the West, if those are, even if they're not relevant to our situation. So I would say, to some extent, this journey that we must develop our own narrative based on our own data has taken about 15 years. There's been a lot that's happened along the way, but I do think it's right to say that IESS 2047 provides the whole community in India with a consistent tool by which we can put our point of view forward, and I'll have more to say on that. Second, that when I was working at Shell, I became aware of the fact that the US had created something called the Energy Information Administration. Now, I don't know whether IESS and ICED mean that we formally have an equivalent role at NITI. I think not. The underlying data still probably comes from the various ministries, MOPNG and also MOEFCC. But I think together in a consistent framework is still an important activity of NITI. Third, I would just say that when I was with Shell, we worked with the Planning Commission and Anil Jain on the first India energy security scenarios. This would have been about 2014, 2015. That was, I think, a collaboration between the Planning Commission and the UK High Commission, or the UK Department of Energy, as it were. And the fact that based on that, on those foundations, that NITI has now third is important and impressive. The reason I thought I would stress the international dimension is because the debate on climate needs to reflect, unfortunately, the narrative coming from the advanced countries, the G7 countries.
And so much has been made, I think, unjustly and unfairly about two aspects of India's goals. The fact that at COP26 in Glasgow, India supported China on the phase down rather than the phase out of coal, and this was seized by the NGOs the countries as a sign of a lack of commitment by India to the planet. I think that was desperately unfair, and there was a certain amount of poetic justice, what the Germans call Schadenfreude, is that actually when the war in Ukraine happened, the Europeans became aware of the importance of climate security and when running to both domestic coal and natural gas. So I think that having a standard platform that all of us can go to, point to, as it were, quite how ambitious India's commitment is to the green transition is very important. All of us, myself included, will point journalists, diplomats to this tool for the authoritative articulation of what India is doing, has achieved. The second point, an additional point I would make, which came out of my participation in a conference in the US at the Distinguished Peterson Institute, is that, again, this, I think, largely this formulation in the climate ladder because we have not signed up to 2050. So I think, again, we should be equipped by our own data and our own analysis to say that, look, the point was made about our delivery on the COP21 targets, the Paris targets. So I'm just saying that we now need to realize that what happens in Indian energy matters to India, matters to the globe. We must evolve and evolving our own narrative. That is a narrative that is based, yes, on sustainability and looking after the planet, but also in of elaborating the vision of the Prime Minister of Viksit Bharat at 2047. You have those who are responsible for the development of the state have assisted in a very major way, a large part of the articulation of that. But let's not forget that the energy transition rests on two pillars. One is the physical side, energy sources, technology. But the second, which was discussed in Gandhinagar this week, is on the financial side. And I think the kind of attention that this scheme has put thinking through and systematizing what India is doing on the technology and physical side now needs to be duplicated on the financial side. So we have a clear sense of what the financing requirements are likely to be, how much in the public sector, how much in the private sector, how much from domestic sources, how much from government sources. And I think we are much further behind at NITI and India in providing the kind of precision that we have seen now represented in the IESS 2047. So again, my thanks to Dr. Saraswat for leading this exercise from the front, for being so, as it were, knowledgeable on the technological side, for having pioneered green hydrogen, the SMR, etc. My thanks to Rajnath, Lulu, and the team for some work of such high quality, and my thanks to our partners for their support in this journey. So with that, let me return you to the MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And now is the time for some green felicitation. That would be a kind of green gratification from our side to the dais. So I would request Vice Chairperson Niti Aayog, Shri Suman Dey, to please present these planters to the dais. Firstly, we would like to present it to Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Member Energy Niti Aayog. Let's have a round of applause. Now, we would like to present it to CEO Niti Aayog, Shri B.V.R. Subramanian. Head of Department, Energy Science and Engineering, IIT Bombay, Professor Sumeet Singh. CEO, Vasudha Foundation, Shri Srinivas Krishnaswamy. And yes, we would like to present this planter to VC sir as well. For that, I will request Dr. V.K. Saraswat to please present this bonsai to Shri Suman. So plants are the only ones that make the trick of so we hope this is Now I would like to request the distinguished dignitaries on the dais to please take a step forward for a formal photograph. And I would like to request the key team members of RECED and IESS to please join us on the stage. Senior Associate Shri Swapnil, Senior Advisor Vasudha Foundation Ms. Vrinda, Senior Specialist Niti Aayog Mr. Venugopal, Consultant Niti Aayog Ms. Anjali. I request all of you to please join us on the stage for this photo op all together. This is the key team that has brought up India Energy Security Scenario 2047 and India Climate and Energy Dashboard. Let's have a round of applause, my friends. We are capturing these beautiful moments in the golden frame of life. These are the moments that make history. And yes, of course, this is our first step towards that. Thank you so much. And now it's the time for vote of thanks. I would like to request Senior Specialist Niti Aayog, Shri Venugopal Netko, to please present the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all the senior dignitaries and the distinguished guests who have joined here physically and online. It's my great privilege and honor to be delivering this vote of thanks on behalf of Energy Vertical of Niti Aayog. At first, I would sincerely like to thank Vice Chairman Niti Aayog, Member Niti Aayog, and CEO Niti Aayog for their unwavering support in development of these two products which were demonstrated today. I would also like to thank G20 Sherpa and advisor to PM for supporting us through a special video message. We sincerely thank all the panel members who have accepted our last minute invite for the session on analytical tools and data for energy transition. I'm thankful to the Energy Vertical team, led by Shri Rajnath Ram, who spearheaded the implementation of these two mega initiatives. Sir, and encouragement. I would also like to thank our technical partners, IIT Bombay, led by Professor Venkat, and Vasudha Foundation to Shri Krishnaswamy and Vida for us in development of these two wonderful products. A large number of stakeholders from industry, from academia, from think tanks and government have contributed towards development of these products. We are thankful to each of the individuals from these organizations for their contributions. I would also like to especially thank the administrative team of Mutiara, the communication team of Mutiara, NIC, design partner Artya, Akashvani team for providing support in ensuring a smooth launch of IECD and IESS, what we are witnessing here today. Lastly, I take this opportunity to especially thank each of the guests who are with us today. We are always eager to hear feedback for constantly working on the particular launch today and also moving to shaping India's emerging future. Once again, thank you all for making this event a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Venu. And as Sir has already thanked everyone, once again, I would like to present my gratification to the distinguished dignitaries on the dais and the August gathering of the dais. So once again, that's such an occasion. Thank you so much, and I would like to invite you all for the lunch. Please join us over there. Shilpa Bhavna signs off. Jai Hind.